What's up everybody? My name is Jiggy. I'm a mental performance coach. People like to say that I'm a motivational speaker. I just like to call myself a hype woman because whether or not I motivate you, I just like to focus on the fact that I'm your biggest fan. I'm also one of the newest members of the Beyond Type 1 Leadership Council. And today, I'm here to tell you that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And with that, I have a question for you. How are you? Let me tell you something. I'm from Queens. I can read people pretty well. So I need you to be honest with me here. How are you? Really? How do you tend to answer when somebody asks you how you're doing? I'm sure your answer can also correlate to who's actually asking that question, but when it comes to the question itself, do you think that you answer with brutal honesty? Or do you give a more of a generic answer? Do you tend to sugarcoat it? Or are you able to feel a little more comfortable, a little more confident with transparency and vulnerability? Not to sound like a poster, but it's okay if you don't feel okay. And above all, it's so important to remember that you're never alone. As a performance coach and motivational speaker, people always asking me, what is the secret to success? You know what the secret to success is? Taking care of your mental health, especially when you're living with type 1 or type 2 diabetes. And because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, Beyond Type 1 is getting the conversation started with real, relatable, personal stories, as well as reliable resources all throughout the month of May. And that's why I'm here and do my best to help kick off the Mental Health Awareness Month with Beyond Type 1 by sharing my own personal story. For me, I think that mental health is so much about how things have accumulated over time and how it shows up in my life. The story that I'm about to share with you, I think truly it starts before I was even diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I was born and raised in South Korea, and within the culture and in my family, it's a super traditional family. There's almost no such thing as expressing of emotions or even experiencing of emotions. And the stereotypes are true. All I had to do throughout life was to bring honor to my family and bring A+ into the house. And if I was ever upset, if I was ever overwhelmed, if I was sad, if I was angry, whatever, it was never honored, it was never acknowledged. It was more so like, oh, let's wait till she's done. And so with the lack of knowledge on how to properly experience my emotions and express my emotions without shame, I dealt with depression all throughout my life. No matter what age I was, honestly, I started to explore thoughts of dying. And that just kind of became a part of me and my daily life. And as I got older, people would always say like, Jiggy, you are so pessimistic. And I don't believe that I was ever really pessimistic as much as I was being realistic accordingly to how my life has been thus far. Cause I had a hard life. I don't need some rich kid from Long Island telling me that I am pessimistic and I need to think more positively. I'm sorry, but I've been through a lot. And I think my story more clearly starts when I was 17 years old. I was a senior in high school and I had to live on my own for a little bit. And that was because my mom was moving down south to start her new job as a nurse in Atlanta or something like that. And then one day she came back to New York with like a very short notice. And I then found out that it was because she had a heart attack as she was moving into her new home. She had to get an emergency surgery and all of that. When she came back, I was like, dope. I know how to cook, I know how to do my own laundry, I know how to take care of myself now. So with my mom being home, this is my chance to be able to start taking care of her. But then once I graduated high school and then the summer started, there was a fire in my apartment building. I lost everything within 1 hour. I didn't have a place to call home anymore. I did have to end up living in a couple of shelters. And then we had to live in this Days Inn motel room for like 2 weeks. And then they moved us to a studio apartment in the ghetto of Brooklyn. And when I say Brooklyn, I mean Brooklyn. I don't mean like Brooklyn, whatever it is now today, but I mean like I couldn't go outside without a fear of getting shot. That part of Brooklyn. I used to just dig my face into the pillow, just screaming and screaming and crying. And, you know, there's my recovering sick mother who couldn't do anything about it. And here I am feeling useless. I couldn't really do much to take care of my mom. We didn't have anything. We lost everything. And I didn't know what else to do. I was just screaming and crying into that pillow and just like wanting to just suffocate myself. And then I started college. I went away to Penn State. I didn't recognize or realize at the time that the thing that I was going through was trauma. And I never got the proper help for it. But thankfully, I made such great friends. All of them always reminded me that I don't have to go through it alone. And then, out of nowhere, I started to experience extreme thirst. My skin was so dry, however much lotion I put on. My mom told me that I should go get tested for diabetes. So I did. Once the test results came in, the doctor came into the office and he sat down and he said, "Yep, it's a sugar problem." And I said, "Okay, but like, can you tell me what that exactly means?" And he said, "You do have diabetes. You have type 1 diabetes." The one thing that he explained to me was that with my type 1 diabetes, it was inevitable for me. There was really like almost nothing I could have done to prevent it. I called my mom and I told her that I tested positive. She started screaming at me and asking like, "What are you doing away in college? Like, why aren't you taking care of yourself? Are you not exercising? What are you eating? How are we gonna pay for your hospital bills?" All these things when I was afraid of having to go to the ER and spend the night in the hospital for the first time in my life. So that was my first day with the diagnosis. So now my life had included my mother surviving a heart attack, me having to live alone my senior year of high school, and then losing a home to fire and experiencing without a homeness, going to college, living the college life, and then being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and then having to do it all alone. Top it off with my mother now being diagnosed with cancer. You know, whenever you take a syringe or you test your blood sugar or whatever, and you like hit a spot that stings. Every time I felt that sting reminded me my life is so shitty. It made me so angry and so depressed. And so, sophomore year in college, I was alone in my dorm room and I used my supplies to, yeah. The plan was to overdose on insulin and then just try to fall asleep. As I was trying to fall asleep and laying in the bed, you know, when you get low, I started getting shaky, started sweating, I started, shortness of breath, and my heart started pumping a lot, and I kind of like panicked. I jumped up and just started eating like everything in sight. For a long time, I kept this story to myself. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to experience any further shame. I didn't want to concern anybody. I didn't share it until through my blog that I wrote for Beyond Type 1 last year in 2019. That was when I saw on one of the Type 1 Diabetes Facebook groups that I was in, this woman shared a story about how the night before her husband had attempted suicide with his supplies. I have never heard that from somebody else before. I didn't know that I wasn't the only one. And our supplies at the end of the day can either help us live or help us end it all. So when I say that sometimes if you don't feel okay, it's okay. It turns out that you're most likely, like for sure, not alone. I think that's the power of empathy and compassion in our community. To everyone watching this right now, to anybody who's also gone out of their way to donate their supplies for me when I had issues with my health insurance, I so literally would not be here today without you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video and listen to my story. If you heard something throughout the video that you can relate to, let me know in the comments below. And if this can inspire you to share your story, please do so and share that post by using the hashtag #NoReallyHowAreYou. My name is Jiggy. You can find me on Instagram at Jiggy_Yoon or JiggyYoon.com. Vulnerability is dope and compassion is always the answer. And make sure you stay tuned into Beyond Type 1's social media channels all month long because it's about to be popping with everything mental health, from personal stories to reliable resources. Again, thank you guys so much for watching.